My name is Richard Joseph Michael Ibranyi. This audio was recorded on July 21st, year 2011. It reveals some events during my stay at Michael Dimond's Most Holy Family Monastery in Berlin, New Jersey, and our move to Queen of Angels Monastery in Fillmore, New York, which was later called Most Holy Family Monastery after Michael Dimond lost the monastery in New Jersey to Father William Ashley. I will mention some anchor dates. On April 4th, 1996, I entered Most Holy Family Monastery in Berlin, New Jersey. In April 1996, I did the Second Coming of Jesus Christ speech. On October 14th, 1996, we moved to the monastery in Fillmore, New York. On August 29th, 1997, I was told to leave the monastery. On September 1st, 1997, I left the monastery. Hence, I was with Michael Dimond for 1 year and 5 months. In January or February of 1999, I recorded the Strange Voices videos. Thus, 1 year and 5 months later, after I left the monastery, I finally got out the information against apostate anti-pope John Paul II and the apostate Second Vatican Council.
When Brother Joseph died, there was only one person. It was me and Brother... I wasn't even in there because Brother Joseph didn't want me to come in. God killed Brother Joseph so I can do the Second Coming of Jesus Christ taping. The long story short. He never wanted me to come back and talk again after my layman speeches. So, because he didn't do that, God struck him dead. Brother Michael's the only one alive that's in the monastery, so who does it fall to? Him, Brother Thomas. But he's got the mind of a 12-year-old. He's an imbecile, in a real sense. Older guy, but simple. So, he fell to him. And it really should have fell to him, really. I was defending him, of course, I was with him at that time. I was trying to defend him against Father Ashley. After I came in and did the Second Coming of Jesus Christ speech and I banned all the false apparitions, the people went nuts against Brother Michael. He thought he was going to be popular when I came in. It was the complete opposite. I went over that part already. So they didn't like us. They went to Father Ashley and said, I want you to come and put a lawsuit down against us and try to take the monastery away from Brother Michael. And so he did. And the people, the laymen got together and put a complaint and said he's stealing our money and all this. They pretended, they told all kinds of lies. Like Brother Joe, they thought it was the Catholic Church and it really was. It's sort of like what the Hoyles are kind of doing. It does, even though Irk doesn't have a case, not really. He gave the donation. I still hope he wins because diamonds are evil and are more dangerous than oil. But that's another issue, however that turns out. But even if he wins, he could lose. It goes through a lot of extensive court case. But Father Ashley closed up all the bank accounts, froze them. But Brother Joseph had all this money. $250,000 was up there, maybe more, in the suitcase. And so Brother Michael grabbed it and said, we're going to all go upstate New York to the property. Let's get out of here. Eventually, that's when we went up to where he is now. And he spends his money like a spendthrift. Yeah. A nice basketball court, though. If he converts, we can have some good basketball games up there. But anyway, he ran up that, and that's why I told Brother Joe. So I knew I had the money, so I just need a little more money. But he had all these things lined up about what he was going to do, all these different buildings. And I said, Brother Joseph, is that why you're not moving up there until you have this palace, this mansion, all these places? I said, go up there and live in a tent if you have to, but don't depend on donations. But he was saving all that money, and so that's how. Then they tried to they tried to close the bank accounts upstate New York on him, which they did. They even freeze those bank accounts. And so he had no bank. He was surviving off the cash. And they knew it. John Vanieri knew it. He used to be in the monastery before Brother Michael. And John Vanieri testified that they had this cash up there. Mm-hmm. But there was no real proof, kind of, And so the big thing was we knew he had cash. We don't know how much. He was hiding in the upper room. That's what you're surviving on. Then they tried to go after the cash even. And what happened was, when this was going on, I was studying the court case, and I said, first, the layman said it was based upon the fact that they've been giving donations all these years to this church that they thought was part of the Catholic Church, and now we realize Brother Joseph Natal was not under the local bishop. They all knew it. And first of all, I said it's a donation. Once you give a donation, I don't see how you can ever ask for it back. Right. I don't. Yeah. I mean, that's Indian giving. Yeah, right. I mean, that's a donation. I don't see it. Yeah. I never saw it. I never thought we'd lose that case. And I said, this is stupid. That's what Sword Boyle's trying to do, you kind of thing. Yeah. I said, And then Brother Michael goes and gets a Jewish lawyer. He comes back and he gets the most expensive lawyer, and he says, guess what? I got this Jew lawyer who's a lawyer to Bill Clinton. I went, oh no, in Philadelphia. I said, you got a Jewish lawyer who's also one of Bill Clinton's lawyers, and he's a Jew. I went, we're dead. I said, why did you get that Jew lawyer? And he got it. And then I was studying. Then John Vanieri came out, and there was always a big thing. I studied law, all the state laws and everything. I had the whole thing ready to go. Because John Vanieri came out. This is really what made me a sedevacantist completely. This converted me completely. This case used it to convert me. Because John Vanieri came out and said, we're going to prove that Brother Joseph Natale's church wasn't the Catholic Church, because he was not under his local bishop, who was the local Catholic bishop under the Pope in Rome. And he was not under him. And I went to Brother Michael and said, you know something? If he's going to hold that at least, then there was some, if he told me he was under local bishop, I said, the only way we can counter out that argument is the sedevacantist position. Yes, Your Honor, that would be true if he was Catholic. But he's not Catholic. Canon Law 188 says he lost his office, so he's no longer a Catholic bishop, and we're not under his jurisdiction. We are a Catholic church. He's not sedevacante. You have to. You have to. And that was their big thrust. That was under their big arguments. And I saw an opening here. I said, Brother Michael, if we don't take the sedevacant position, we're dead. I told him, we may as well take these costumes off and go home. Right now. Because we're fooling ourselves even. Because I had it up to here with that. I already knew about it. Keep telling people we're Benedictine. We're not Benedictine. He's still not a Benedictine. He should have just called himself something else. But I was studying all the laws, and I said, we got him. I said, I don't care even if we win the case. I want to go to court and testify on the sedevacant position against Father Ashley, because that's who I would have been going against. I wanted to get up there, and Father said, well, your local bishop, I speak for the local bishop, here's a letter from him. He says, I do not recognize Brother Joseph Natale, Most Holy Family Monastery. They're not under my jurisdiction. And I would get up and testify, Your Honor, the reason we're not under his jurisdiction is because he has no jurisdiction, is because he has no office, is because he's a public heretic. And it would have been a religious Catholic issue, because that's what it was. They brought in, and the judge was accepting it. So I was all ready, man. I was loving it. I had everything ready to go. Then he said, no, my lawyer said he doesn't want you testifying in the case. And they didn't take my position, because Brother Michael wasn't sedevacante either. And he didn't want to take the sedevacant position. So all this is going on. I went, Brother, that's what I told him. I got angry. I said, if you don't take sedevacant position, you're going to lose. Let's take off these costumes and go home. Because we're not under his jurisdiction. We are lying. That's what I came to my stuff even. You know what I used to tell the people? We recognize the Pope, but he doesn't recognize us. I think it's the other way around, isn't it? That's what we used to tell people. Well, I recognize the Pope, we're under the Holy Father, but he don't recognize us. You know, I mean, maybe in some legitimate disobedience you might have a case like that, but it was not holding very much water. You know, I said, wait a second, you know. And then when you got the sedevacant positions, you have all the ammunition. But he never let me testify. That was it. Keep him locked up in the monastery again. Keep Ibranyi locked up. No testimony, and all the money, we're surviving off of that money. It must have been $250,000 or more. Sal Montesano was hiding in the back of his black Cadillac. He had it on the property there, and he would always go down and get the money. And he knew it. That's why I asked him that question at the court case. He said, you know, I said, did you have $150,000 in the back of Sal Montesano's Cadillac? And that's where you go. Oh no. Okay, all right. And then I asked Sal Jr. too, and he lied. But that didn't have nothing to do with the case, but it came up. You know, I just wanted to get him to lie, you know, under oath or something. I don't know. Father Ashley case cost them quite a bit of money for that law, a lot of money. I don't know how much for it, but it depleted him, and he lost the case, lost the monastery, and I couldn't believe it. I says, I'm not saying we would have won anyway, even if I stood in. I wasn't mostly concerned. I was surprised though, but that's what I mean. We never win. Even he still shouldn't have lost. You know, regardless, he shouldn't have lost. But I can't stand Brother Michael now. Even then, he was wacky too. But he still shouldn't have lost. I mean, it was based upon donation. I said, how could the judge ever give Father Ashley's thing based upon the people don't have no right to get their donations back? Yeah. What you give, you give. But they unfroze his bank account up in New York City. They unfroze that one. He can get that one back. But all the bank accounts in New Jersey were handed over to Father Ashley, along with the whole monastery and all the property. And he turned it Fraternity St. Peter's. I don't know what he calls it today. But there was another thing he didn't let me get involved in. I don't think even if I got involved we would have won. I'm not saying that. I wanted to go there just to defend the faith. But then I became firmly convinced. I said, we got to be steady, be conscious. We're hypocrites. I can't. That's the answer. I can't lie to people on it. The answer is he doesn't have that jurisdiction. He's not the Pope. And that's when enter the other battle of steady, be conscious. Okay, Ibranyi, you can hold your opinion, Brother Richard, and I'll hold mine. And so we were telling people different things on the phone, and he's the superior. And they've called up. Did you know Brother Richard said that J.P. John Paul II is a Apostle and anti-Pope? Do you know that? Oh, did he tell you that? Well, no, I don't believe that. Nobody can do that. No one can make that. Well, you better tell Richard because he's telling people. That lasted for about less than a month. Then I was wrong because it's not opinion. I was even wrong. I was in heresy. I said it's not opinion. Then I said, no, that's not opinion. It's not open for you can believe what you want. I can believe what I progressed in this thing, you see. But the court case really kicked it in for me. John Veneri's one statement is what God used to completely convert me to steady, be conscious of John Veneri's statement. He says, I'm going to prove in court that they're frauds because they say they're under the Pope and the local bishop, I have a letter from him right here, says they are not under his jurisdiction and they don't submit to him in anything. And then what are you going to do? You got to start come to some decisions. So that got me on a strong road to steady, be conscious right away, convicted. And then we hanged out with the opinion thing, that's still heresy on my part because it's not opinion. And then I said, wait, it ain't going to work. And this thing is an opinion. And then I got more vocal about it. And then try to silence me on that. I says, look, you don't obey a man you believe is the Pope, JP2. You're superior. You're my superior, and I will not obey you neither. Anything sinful, and I will not remain silent. And so the whole thing before he let me go. Then he lied when he tried. I don't know what he felt, but that's why I did write about that. That's on RJMI about what happened the day when he let me go. Brother Michael is all about fame. That is it. He wants to be famous in the worst way. He would get people on the phone, Malachi Martin's anybody, to give him references. Brother Michael's Diamond is the best book I ever heard. Got to get his video. And he always tried to get them. And all these guys on the phone saying, you better keep Ibranyi locked up because he's an anti-Semite or something. He goes against the Jews. He's a maniac. Pacify him. Don't ever let him speak again. Now, and I promised that I was going to speak to these people after my second coming, that I'm going to give you the evidence. Well, that didn't take place till I don't know how many years later. I was then kicked out of the monastery. It was mutual anyway. And I was in hiding in New Jersey for a while, till I came out to New Mexico and made the Strange Voices tape. He's got good questions. He's got questions made people want to know about these things.
Yeah, I'm sure I got 1,000 more questions in there. It's just not right.
We'll have another thing at it. Oh, it is. Oh, man. I feel like I'm about 1,000 years old, if anything. My eyes are bugging out. I feel like my guts have been blasted all over the place. Even today, I mean, we won.
I know.
That's why I hate it. That's why I hate what happens. I never win with these guys.
God has put him through some very unique and very complete and very
precise, apropos trials.
Yes.
That's why I say my hope is that no one of you guys have to go through that. Others did, and we're not the only one. A lot of people have gone through it. I'm not the only one. But what I'm saying is, I don't want people to have to do what I did. I want them to come from point A right to Z. Or very close. Like, I don't want you to have to find out yourself. You know, the guy was sort of telling me in the beginning, he said, you're like a point man in a military company. You're the point man. You're the one that's got to go first. You're going to get your head chopped. You're going to get smacked. You're going to get punched. And I said, I don't mind, because that's why even now, it's a military combat.
Right now, he's the Pope, the Cardinal, the Bishop, the Priest. What else?
Why do you say
accurate theologian.
With a lot of help, too, Beardo.
Well, it's true.
Will.
Obviously, no, you can't
your
help,
credit, you came quick.
That is it.
Well, I was going to say, I had the same attitude as you. Like, when I first met him, I had a lot of the same questions.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, when somebody makes
you do. That's right. That's true. That's true.
Who are you?
That's right. Who are you? And then he asked me all these things. He had me on the phone quite a few. But what you're saying now is important, because maybe that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I think it is very important in a way that we do that is finally say something about it. Even what happened to you and the whole, get maybe a little more detail in it, because if it helps you, it's going to help other people.
Right.
People first need to know the frauds of the diamonds, about and the whole thing of what's going on and how it goes on and what they do, what goes on up there, what really happened, what are they like, did this happen or did that happen, Even now there's enough stuff up there, but I think maybe even these other little details. Because when I did the Fear of the Jew thing, I almost was going to get into more detail on it, but I got more into Gary Potter and the other guys. So maybe it is time to start just bringing that up. But to get these people to see get away from all this stuff. The ultimate thing, to me, though, is still, and that's where we've got to the Renaissance movement. And the only reason you can go back that far is once you do the right thing in God with His eyes. See, because the other thing is this. How many clown masses do you need to see?
Yeah.
I mean, how many do you need to see? To finally give up and just say, all right, 1,001 clown masses. How about 2,002 heresies of Benedict XV? The apostate Peter Dimond, his big claim to fame is, I read every one of Ratman's works. What kind of a brain does he have?
Yes.
What's going around in his brain? You needed to read every one of his works?
Why did he even go past
everyone. Why?
No.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Every week he's got a heresy of the week. How many do I? And he's stuck like a broken record on this guy. And he's not going back to the Renaissance. He's not going back to the Renaissance, which is the root, and he's not living the life. He's not telling people how to be good Catholics. He's not demanding it from them. There's no pastoral care. There's no follow-up. There's no talking. There's no adjuration. There's no help.
There's the baby sleeping during the day.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yes.
Exactly.
I mean, the Blessed Mother tells you at La Salette that Rome is going to be the seat of Antichrist.
Amen.
You know, you're going to look at that a little carefully, aren't you? You're going to see, well, what does she mean by that exactly? You know, and you do a little homework and you find out, well, there's going to be a great apostasy. What's it going to look like? You know, that's all the time. It's going to look like exactly what it is right now. It couldn't be any different. It has to be just the way it is right now.
And now that you were bringing up the Dimond issue, I got another point I'll speak to. So we got that mic on here. Hypocrisy of all hypocrisies. When I first went into the monastery, because I loved the Mass so much, even as a kid, I did. I wasn't in the church, never. Not as a kid even. I know that. I wanted to love God. God knew the motivation. But when I was in the monastery, we would have Mass every morning, 6 o'clock, I forget what time it was. And Father Clifford was there saying Mass. I'd be the altar boy. And I loved the Mass. So I was there every morning saying the Mass as his altar boy. Brother Michael Dimond would be sleeping. And he'd say, when it comes to Holy Communion, wake me up. I'd go in and wake him up for Holy Communion. He would come in, receive Holy Communion, and immediately go back to sleep again and leave the church. He did it every morning. Never attended Mass. And he thought this guy was Catholic, though. You know what I mean? He doesn't love the Mass. Here's my point on this. I need to say this. Even a guy, Frank Conklin, would come down here. Who knew Father Feeney. He was one of these. Frank Conklin, I think, was his name. I might not be 100% right on the name. I let him in every morning because we let our big guys we know in. They can attend the Mass. He's a witness to what I'm saying. And other people. That Brother Michael never went to Mass. He would just receive communion and go back to bed. So every time it comes to communion, wake him up, he'd come in, receive Holy Communion, and go right back to bed. Never attend Mass. Finally, Father Clifford had it up to here with him. This is after Brother Joseph was gone even. It was just me and Brother Michael now in there. Because we were in there for a while before everything, the lawsuits and all that happened. A little bit, but enough. So I'm waking him up like that. And finally Father Clifford gets it one morning. And he goes, I'm no longer giving you Holy Communion until you attend Mass. That was it. Goodbye, Father Clifford. Now, I didn't like Father Clifford for other reasons. He was a Marian priest, Gobiite. He had other reasons. I would have got rid of him for other reasons. I would have got rid of him for the right reason. He said this to Brother Michael, and his eyes raged. Walked out of the place, and right after Mass, called Father Clifford in. That's it. I want you out of here. Don't you ever talk to me like that. I'm the superior in here. Where are we? And then the priest, he got all panicked. He ran in front of the altar and kneeled down in front of me. Blessed Mother, help me, help me. I want you out of here now. Now, I would have kicked him out for another reason. He kicked him out merely for the fact that he rebuked him for a right reason.
Yeah, right.
That you cannot. Now, here's Mr. Mass guy. He's the one that tells you about you always got to go to Mass. Yeah. Even now he only goes in to receive. He tells you to leave. He don't love the Mass. My point on all this, he's a fat, stinking, demonic hypocrite. Yeah. And I had to do exorcisms to get him out of bed. He's so possessed by demons. Yeah. I did. He couldn't even get out to pray the night office. I had to go in and do several exorcisms for about 15 minutes to get him out of bed so he can stay in office. these are all things that they're telling now, and that Mass thing was what a hypocrisy. And then Father Clifford, I didn't care that he left, because I would have kicked him out for my own reasons, but that was all the wrong reason. He had such jealousies, and he had a little dog in there even. The dog's name was the Little Muddy Dog. I liked him, though. I like all dogs. Yeah. But he used to love me. He used to jump on my lap. I'd pet him. And he would get so jealous, Brother Michael, because the dog was always coming to me. And he would yell at the dog, get off his lap and come over here. And stay away from me. He would get angry. Oh, we had another kid get up there, this kid Marcus. Oh.
That I need to schedule.
Yeah. He's good, too. Let me remind me that one. First, let's get to another guy. One day this kid remembered Marcus thing. No, you know the Brother Anthony? Remember that. I'll tell you the Marcus thing. There's not one person that went to that monastery will not verify what I'm saying is 100% truth. The kid's a nutcase. Old as a shark. A nutcase. Sleeped all day. I followed never prayed the offices. Never followed the rule at all. I followed the whole rule when I was in there. I was really like the superior, really. I ran the whole place. I would take care of all the people that would come in. I would do all that kind of work. But whenever he got involved, he always muddled it up because he didn't care one bit about people. So this one guy, Brother Anthony, in Berlin, New Jersey, wants to come into the monastery, a young kid, and he comes in, and Brother Michael lets him in, gives him a chance. And we're in there for about a day or two, and he comes up to me and says, Brother Richard, Brother Michael hasn't given me any work to do, and I need a schedule. I need something to do. I said, Brother Michael, Brother Anthony needs a schedule. He needs some work to do, And he says, I'm a superior. I'll take care of that. I said, well, I thought I'd let you know. Another day, he comes by and he says, Brother Richard, I need work. He didn't tell you anything to do? He says, no. He says, I need a schedule. I said, well, look, our bookstore needs to be fixed, needs to be organized. Come into the bookstore. And I brought him into the bookstore. I showed him how to fix up the bookstore, and I gave him some work. Brother Michael comes in, and he goes, did you tell Brother Anthony to clean up the bookstore? I said, yes. He says, I'm the superior. I'm the one who gives out the work. I said, well, no one's telling him what to do. The bookstore needs to be fixed. The kid's standing around all day. Somebody needs to tell him what to do. He goes, I know. I'll tell him what to do. I said, well, then do that, please. And tell him to do something, and give him a schedule. I'm the one who will do it. Fine. That's how that argument ended, right? Then we're at the dinner table. Brother Michael's sitting here. Brother Anthony's over here. I'm over here. Brother Anthony's sitting and he's looking at Brother Michael, and he goes, that's it, Brother Michael. No, he goes, I need a schedule, Brother Michael. I need a schedule. And then Brother Michael's like this, straight ahead with those shark eyes, and he doesn't talk to nobody. He doesn't talk. He doesn't even tell him anything. You don't even know what the kid is a wacko. Then he's staring straight ahead. His eyes are always dilated. That's weird. I don't know. Just somebody can tell you it's always wide open. And he's staring straight ahead. Nothing. He goes, that's it. No, first he says, I need a schedule. I need a schedule. And he's staring like this. Nothing. And then Brother Anthony went, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. And that was the end of Brother Anthony. He's gone. Brother Anthony's gone. This kid Marcus Aurelian comes in. I forget his last name. I don't know if I have it right. He was going to either go to our place or to St. Benedict's in New Hampshire. He wanted thinking about joining. Ain't nobody joined up there very long. Where we are. Anyway. I was the only one that would take them through the steps and when they were in there anyway. So this kid Marcus comes in and he's from Texas, and he wasn't a bad kid. I mean, he was very delicate. He had a special diet, and which is not too good for a monastery or anything, but that we wouldn't even get that far. We get in there to start. First, I'm saying all their offices. Brother Michael usually only say the night office. Only one a day or maybe two if you're fortunate. And then we would be in there chanting the Latin. And then both of us were chanting, and Marcus was there. So the next day Marcus comes up to me, and he says, you guys are massacring the Latin. I said, well, Marcus, I know. I don't know Latin. I need someone to teach me. And he says, well, I can teach you. I know how to pronounce. And he taught me. He's the one who taught me how to pronounce Latin, this kid Marcus. So he taught me. I thanked him. And he went up and told Brother Michael, oh, that was the end of it. That was it for him. He told Brother Michael he's mangling the Latin. He doesn't know how to speak the Latin. Brother Michael went nuts. I want him out of here. I want you out of here by tomorrow. I want you out of here on the first bus. He goes, I'm not supposed to leave till Monday. My bus leaves on Monday. They're expecting me up at New Hampshire, St. Benedict's on Monday. What happens on the way? No, I don't care. I'm going to call up the phone. I want you out on the first bus in the morning. Because that already got him, but he didn't do it right away after that, although that got him real angry. He yelled at him. He said, how dare you tell me how to pronounce the Latin? But the Sedevacant compositions were coming up, and I was starting to present. But this was happening in the background. He was one of the guys I was presenting the teachings to. Anyway, I was getting ready to give him those teachings, and then Brother Michael pulled him out of the house after the Latin dispute, because he told Brother Michael he doesn't pronounce his Latin right, threw him into the other place, away from me. I had a package of Sedevacant stuff to give him because I wanted him to get it before we went to the St. Benedict. I didn't want him to go there. And right in the morning, Brother Michael had him early morning getting ready, but I got over there real early in the morning, right before Brother Michael, and gave him the package. So he got the package. And he hustled this kid out in the most rude. So right in the morning, get him out, drove him, you're out of here. And all because he told him he doesn't know how to pronounce his Latin.
So full of pride.
This kid deserves a beating. I should have myself. Look at the sins of omission I'm committing by listening to this dummy. But my way, what was I doing? I went, hey, I got a library here. He wasn't telling me what to do. I was telling him he couldn't run anybody. When he came to that, I had to run the other thing I'll tell you about, just which has to do with the when we were going through a court case on the Sedevacant composition. I was coming around to the Sedevacant composition. I had a dream, and the dream was, I was rebuking Brother Michael in the kitchen. I said to him, much is given, much is expected, and if you don't speak up, if you commit sins of omission, then God will punish you and destroy you. And I was rebuking him really big in the kitchen. I woke up from the dream and I said, boy, is that going to really happen? Maybe, I don't know, I hope not. What's going to happen? Well, about a couple months later, not even maybe 2-3 months later, we were already brewing over the Sedevacant stuff position. And he knew I was reading the stuff from the library. So he got the stuff, took it away from my room, and he hid it back down in the basement again. He took it away. And he kept trying to hide it from me, the Sedevacant teachings. And then he took something out of my room. I said, did you take this teaching on the Sedevacant composition, this book out here? Yeah. I says, look, Brother Michael. I said to him, much is given, much is expected. And I really wasn't thinking about the dream until I was halfway through the thing, you know? So much is given, much is expected. You're committing sins of omission. This is the truth that you're hiding. And God's going to punish you. He's going to curse you. And his wrath is going to... And I went on the whole thing. And after I said that, he actually listened. He went down in the basement, got a whole box of stuff he was hiding on the Sedevacant books, and he brought them up and he gave them to me. He did. He said, Brother Richard, here. And he did. And I said, well, that's pretty good. You know, maybe we're making some progress with this kid. A little bit. Well, that was one thing that happened. And later on, when his brother Bob came in, which I don't think I wrote about it, but I don't know if I said exactly how the actual thing happened. When Bob Dimond came in, he converted by looking at my Second Coming of Jesus Christ video. He watched that video and he was like glued to it, and I can see it. It was converting him. And when I first met him, he seemed like a very good kid. He did, really. He surprises me the most, Peter Dimond, more than anybody. The reason he became so cursed and even probably worse than his brother is because he conceded to his brother and not to me. He knew what I was saying was true, but he wanted to stay in the monastery. But when he first came in here, he really seemed to have some goodwill. He was a simple, completely different than he sounds now. He sounds like a whole different person, like he's a demon or something. A pride-filled demon. Well, when he came in anyway, he looked at that and he was coming to me a lot for teachings. And then his brother was sort of trying to keep him away from me as much as possible because I was holding the Sedevacant composition, and I would sort of get a little bit in edgewise, and he said, well, can you give me the books? Because he was wanting to be a catechumen. And he said to his own brother, he says, well, can you give me the books? I need to learn about this. And every time he'd come up and visit, he would ask, can you give me the books on these positions? Sedevacant compositions and the traditional teachings and all the dogmas, especially on the Sedevacant compositions and all that. He says, and then he came up once, and his brother's not giving him any books. He doesn't want him to learn these positions. So he comes up one time, and we're in the living room, and he comes up and says, Brother Michael, he says, I need to learn. I need to learn, or I'm not going to know what the Catholic faith is. I says, that's it. I says, Brother Michael, did you give him the books yet? No. I says, Bob, come over here. And Brother Michael is standing in the doorway, and he just froze. You know, because if he got my way, I would have bowled him over. I said, he just froze. I says, that's it. Bob, come over here. I says, get me a box. Get me that box. I got a box. I filled up all the Sedevacant book teachings. I got him all the teachings. I said, open up the door and open your trunk. I went outside with him. He opened up his trunk, and I put the books in the trunk. He closed it. I says, now leave. And then Brother Michael just stood there like he was in shock. Didn't say a word. And that's when Bob Dimond came back and then believed the Sedevacant composition. And his brother was, whoa. He was then he was outnumbered now. Now his own brother is holding it. I held it. The Pollock and Bill Tucci were on the line. He got it like 3 ways. That's what it really did on one phone conversation. He was on the line with Pat Pollock and Bill Tucci talking about it. His own brother told him, hey, he can't be the Pope. I'm saying he can't be the Pope. And then all of a sudden, we're all 3 getting him. And then he's on the phone talking to the Pope. He says, that's it. I don't want to hear from none of you anymore. Nobody can make a declaration. Nobody can judge the Pope. And that was it. That was it for me. That's when the decision was that I'm gone. At that moment, because of that happened there. Yeah. And it was happening to Bob. And Bob kept fighting him a little by it, and then Bob left, I was left there alone, and then the axe was ready to come down on me. But that's not why he told me he was going to let me go. That wasn't the reason he used. But it was the day that happened, it was St. John the Baptist, the beheading of St. John the Baptist is when he told me that, you got to leave and all that. But I knew something was up, because he already told me that he said, that's it, and Brother Richard, you're restricted to your room, I don't want you talking to nobody anymore. And then nobody could talk to me for a while. That was a little bit, I knew something was brewing. The Montesanos would come up with their groceries and they couldn't talk to me. I understand if I deserved it, that's fine. But he's got me locked in the room and I can't talk to nobody. But then once I said, that's it, Sal. I said, this is over the study of compass. This is over dogmas. And he's wrong what he's doing. Oh, he told us we can't talk to you. Tom Mamel came in. I heard him talking in the background. I knew something was up. And he said, he might be right. He could be right. I mean, Brother Michael, give him another chance. The Montesanos were praying. They were all sad. They were all sick about what happened. They knew it was going to happen before he told me. Yeah. And I said, why? They looked like they were all fasting. What's going on here? And they were all sad. You can see it. So, but when he called me in to let me go, I forget who warned me. Montesano, someone said he had a gun in the left-hand corner of his desk, a gun. And it was a big table, and he was sitting over here, and I knew that. I says, well, I'm going to keep an eye on him. I says, the minute he reaches for that thing, if he pulls that gun, I'm going to make him eat it. I'll be over that table so fast. He's not. I'm watching, but I says, I hope he doesn't do it. So we sit down there, and he's sitting over here, and I'm sitting over there, and he goes, well, Brother Richard, I think God is calling you more to go out and to preach and evangelize. This is more like a monastery, and we're like a seclusive, contemplative. I said, Brother Michael, that's a lie, and you know it. I said, we're not strictly contemplative. We make controversial videos, and we owe it to the people to respond to them. We're not. You're letting me go because I hold the study of composition because I believe John Paul II is an anti-pope. That's it. That's right. Nobody can make a declaration against the Holy Father. Nobody can judge the Holy Father. I said, I'm going to say this to you 5 times. Vocum est apostolos officio. And Canon Law 184, without declaration, without declaration, without declaration. I must have said it 3, 4, maybe 5 times. And then he went, that's it. And he went to the drawer with his left hand. I seen him reach it. I watched. I'm watching him. I went, don't go there. Don't go there. And he had the Montesanos in the other room too, I think, watching this. But he didn't open the drawer. And he went, that's it, that's right, nobody can judge your Pope. And that's when I told him, well, look, you're the first one who doesn't obey John Paul II. When he gives a command, I don't obey you because you're my superior. So that's it, you're out. And that's when he kicked me out, I says, well, I don't belong here because I can't keep my mouth shut and I will not remain silent. I will not obey you on this.
This may seem like a quibble, but you aren't judging the Pope. Because he stopped being the Pope.
Oh, he's not even a Pope. Yeah. But you could even judge him. And you could even factually judge a Pope, yeah. You can make a factual judgment against a Pope. Oh, that's a good point he's bringing up. And which you could. You can make easy. If a Pope commits adultery, that's a factual judgment. You can't juridically judge him. You can factually judge him. So anyway, without declaration, and he said, you're sending stuff in the mail behind my back. Yes, because I promised these people the teachings. And what do you hide? I told them, what are you hiding? Cum ex apostolos officios is a church document. What are you hiding? So, and that was it. And then that's when Sal Montesanos Jr. took me to Philadelphia where he was going home. And then Harry Rue picked me up in Philadelphia and he took me to the senior citizen home of Harry Rue. So I was sleeping on his couch for about 6 months there, after I left the monastery. But for a while, God left me blank, with no help. And I didn't know how to get out of here, and He was punishing me. Punishing me because of my sins of omission. Grievous sins of omission. I committed bad sins of omission. I knew it too. I look back and see it. And God, but He didn't let me hide that way with as bad with Rios because I prepared a little bit. I did bad then too, but not as long. I was a little bit quicker. I planned a little more. I see how God deals with you. He'll always punish you when you do wrong, but not as bad if you make a quick recovery. It all depends on how quick you recover and how long you stay in a situation. You always get punished, but sometimes God, not as bad as if you make quick recoveries. But in the beginning, I don't even know what his reasons were. I don't know what he was saying the reason was, but we had other kids come in there too. Poor kid, another kid come in there. He's like an ex-con or something. You can tell he had a criminal record. Our relatives, the guys we knew, and I think I could have worked with this kid. And Brother Michael would not give him anything to do, and he ended up just sitting in a rocking chair all day, like this, because he didn't know what to do. And we'll give Montesano's kids, Anthony and Francis, named after St. Anthony and St. Francis. All right, Montesano, what dummies they are for staying with this idiot, and they know it. First, when they came in there, we had this family living on the property. They were like the caretakers. They were living in a mobile home at the bottom of the 90 acres of his property, and they would go out and shop and help him and all that. I said, Brother Michael, we should catechetize. He had a big family. He had sons and grandsons, daughters and granddaughters, and he had a big family. And I said, Brother Michael, we should catechetize them and teach them. No, we're monks. We're contemplative. We don't deal with the public. I said, this is an extraordinary situation. There's nobody here to help these kids. And not only that, I said, we had 90 acres of land with raspberries that you can pick and you can plant and do lawn. I said, why don't you let me at least deal with the kids, Anthony and Francis, and let them plant grass and pick raspberries and give them some work to do. No, I'm the superior. I'm the one who does that. I don't want to get involved with the laymen. We're contemplative. Leave them alone. And because they would come up and they asked them, they wanted to be taught. I said, boy, this is vicious. I said, they should be taught. Someone's got to teach them. Put the kids to work. We got 90 acres of land. He didn't want them up there. He didn't want them working on the land. He didn't want them planting seeds. So once Brother Michael went away for about a week or two on one of his speeches, and he was the one who wanted to do all this, the famous guy. And I got a chance. I said, let me get Francis and Anthony up here to pick raspberries and plant. I said, and go over there and plant some seeds and plant some grass. So I got the kids doing some work. He came back and he said, who's that planted this thing? Did you put them to work? I don't want them up here working on the property. When I left, when he kicked me out that day, I went down to the Montesanos who were at the bottom of the camp, and they were all sad. They were so sorry. And they went, well, if Peter and Paul fought. I says, no, they didn't. Not like that. I said, not like we're fighting. Don't compare us to Peter and Paul. This kid's a monster. And then one says, well, Montesano's daughter said, well, Brother Michael, like he's introverted, is that good? Well, introverted is not good. Contemplative is good, but introverted means some guy who's a weirdo, who's very antisocial, doesn't like people, and he's nasty. That's not good. And that's what Brother Michael is. So they're trying to say, well, you're just different and all that. And then I told the Montesanos, you know how many times I tried to get you people up here to catechetize you and put your kids to work? He never wanted it. I says, I love you more than he does. This guy doesn't care about you. And they knew it. They felt so bad, And then they actually testified against me eventually after, because they're living on his property, So the kid is anybody that went up there will tell you.
Yeah, right.
Then, like the sleeping thing.
Yeah.
Sleep all day. They're like, and stay up all night.
Yeah.
And every time someone will call, you'd have to make an excuse for him.
Yeah, right.
Well, he's not available now. And the other thing that was really hard was, and I stopped. I couldn't lie for them anymore. It was too much. The other thing was the Benedictine thing. That got me. That bothered me. Benedictines. I went, every time I said, well, we're Benedictines, I forget what the reason I gave, because Brother Joseph or something, I think it was a dumb reason, and I knew it. I said, I can't keep doing this. So one time I got so sick of saying it, because I knew I was lying. It just didn't make sense. Either, we're Benedictines because we followed a rule. Well, that don't make a Benedictine. Yeah. We're Benedictines because Brother Joseph said we're Benedictines, because he was the Oblates of St. Jude before that. Then he just said, I'm going to be a Benedictine. Or I said, just because you call yourself a Benedictine, don't make a Benedictine. And I knew we were relying on all those excuses. So one guy called me up once. I said, you know what? I don't know why we're Benedictines. I don't even know if we are Benedictines. I said, we probably should have just said we're started a new religious order because you're allowed to do that, and call ourselves something else, like Mary's Little Remnant or something. But don't call ourselves Benedictines. It creates a scandal. And I says, we're not Benedictines. I then started. And then he even stopped dropping the OSB for a while. Mm-hmm. And then he picks it up again. He went before Father Wickens to try to make him a Benedictine, but Father Wickens isn't a Benedictine. Then he went before Father Bernard, who said he was like a Benedictine, traditionalist sort of, to try to do vows before him to get legitimacy. It's a mess. Brother Joseph went to Latrobe, Pennsylvania, was kicked out because he was and for good reason too. He wanted to be a priest and he was crippled. Crippled cannot be a priest.
Yeah.
Brother Joseph was another piece of work himself. Started the Oblates of St. Jude, and then started to call himself a Benedict order because he wanted to be a Benedictine. That's about as simple as that's how it got. But he was going to the Benedictine in Latrobe, but he was kicked out. And show you how bad that rebel is, he used to try to pretend to say Mass, even though he knew he wasn't a priest. And first of all, priests cannot, if you're crippled, you cannot become a priest. Or if you're injured, you're not allowed to. That's canon law.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the first days of the church.
Yeah.
He should have known better.
Old Testament, too.
Old Testament, right. And so he'd pretend to say Mass and all that, and wanted to do the priesthood. And one time, he'd always tell the story, Brother Joseph was up there saying Mass once, and then a drop of blood came on the altar. I says, what are you telling me? God's going to give this guy transubstantiation? He doesn't have holy orders. What kind of a God would do this? I said, that's stupid. That don't make sense. That's. Are you sure you're telling me what you said? That had to be from hell, I said. Yeah, God would never do that. That's another story he told me about Brother Joseph. Brother Joseph was supposed to be one of the witnesses. He's going to be the one that's going to be around for these final days.
That's what he thought about.
Yeah. And they said after he died, he told me he's going to come back or something, maybe. I don't know, something like, I'll be back, after he died. But what happened was he died very shortly after. He wouldn't allow me to do the second coming of Jesus Christ speech. Just look at the sequence of events. Everything that was leading to what happened was to get me to do that second coming of Jesus Christ speech. That was a very, very big pinnacle moment. A very powerhouse, a very powerful speech that needed to get out there. And God wanted it out there at all costs, no matter what. And so he killed Brother Joseph. I even had a chance to speak to Brother Joseph to tell him what he should have done, what he didn't do. And he knew he was doing wrong. But because for the sake of money and donations, he won't. They hated me so much, they would break my tape, step on him. They would bring him in and break him in front of them. Don't let that guy speak in here no more and all that. He had a lot of pressure on him from these people, and he caved.
Wow.
He caved in. I don't even care any of that, The other part of the story I did tell about, I wanted to go on and talk to. I'm glad I told that too. But one thing I don't know if I finished on that story was once the people finally left and everything, we had the big blowout. Brother Michael wouldn't let me go out and explain things to him. I don't mind people even getting angry at me. I don't bother me. I don't even care if they punch me, fight me, we get into a little brawl or a fight. I'm going to try to tell you something out there. What the truth is and all that. And it was very bad that he didn't let me go out and talk to these people. Well, we were then Clifford's gone, so we're going to the SSP 10, Eddystone Chapel in Pennsylvania with Father Hugo. He's right here in New Mexico now, Father Hugo. Is a so-called Benedictine with Father Cyprian in Silverton. Where is it? In Silverton, right?
Yeah. So-called Benedictine.
So-called Benedictine.
Oh, no, Silver City.
Silver City.
Yeah.
And they're associated with the SSP 10, really. But anyway, we went out there to Mass, we're sitting amongst the laymen, and enter my experience with the SSP 10. That's how I got into conflicts with them. That's a long story, which maybe we'll tell it right now, sort of involves it, that little part. So we went in there, and the first week we come out, and Father Hugo calls me over. And some of the people saw my second coming tape, and they went, good, congratulations, Richard, I agree with you. Why are you whispering? Oh, I agree, I think Rome's going to fall. Oh, well, we're not allowed to talk about this. The priest doesn't. Well, we're trying to get the priest to show your tape here. And I was shocked. I said, well, why doesn't he like it? Why wouldn't he? Is he under aren't they against JP too? Aren't they in opposition? I thought they would have liked. I really did. I thought they were going to accept me. I thought they would say, "Thank you, Richard. This is great what you did." We were waiting for somebody to blast the bum. It was the opposite. And that's the first thing that shocked me. They tried to get the priest to listen to the tape, but even Father Hugo, when I'm leaving Mass the first time we attended, he said, I was with Brother Michael, he said, "Oh, Brother Richard, come over." He says, "Oh, what accent is that?" Or he said, "I heard your tape." He heard the tape. He was really wanted to talk. And I was going over to talk to him. I says, "Good, I got my chance." Brother Michael goes, "Brother Richard, over here, silence, obedience, silence, we don't talk to nobody." I said, "Father, I'm sorry. I have to obey, I can't talk." So, and we're ready. That's weird, man. I had a chance to witness to this guy. So that was the first week. Now, second or third week, I forget what week it was, we're in there, and all the parishioners that were angry at us, that couldn't talk to us, knew we were there, and they were attending Mass there themselves now, because they didn't have no place to go. So one week, the first guy came up and he just railed me, started yelling at me and all that in the parking lot, cursing at me and really bad. And Father Hugo, I think, spoke to him and he made him apologize the next week. because he said, you better go over and apologize to Brother Richard. You attacked him too hard. And he did. But the week after that, 4 or 5 of them came up to me, but really nice now, like lambs. And they went, Brother Richard, please, would you please speak to us? He says, I just want to know what's happening. What's going on? I said, I've been wanting to speak to you for so long. Brother Michael's right behind me. Brother Richard, obedience, silence. We speak to no one. I said, I can't speak to you. Sorry. Then I was so angry. I go back to Brother Michael and I go, Brother Michael, I said, what's with this sign? It's a Benedictine rule. I said, if St. Benedict wants us to be silent in this situation, I want to become a Franciscan. Because I don't believe it. That's what I told him. I said, this is uncharitable and this is nasty.
Yeah.
This is mean. I had a chance to talk to these people. There's another good story. I should have said, get lost, you know. Every time we play basketball, I get back at him. I give him a couple submarine shots, knock him across the thing into the wall. He was a good basketball player, but I would always give him little submarines and go up and rough him up on the. No, I didn't do it too much, so viciously though. A little bit maybe once in a while, but not too much. I didn't really. But the kid deserved a beating though. He did deserve a beating, a good beating. He was like his big thing though was just fame. Selfishness to the highest degree. He had never seen nothing like that.
Did he grow up Protestant with his brother, or
nothing? I think almost they were nothing. I think. I think his father's a Jew even. Yeah, a rich Jew, very rich Jew. I think.
I've heard the rumor that they're Jews.
I think he is. I wouldn't say that for sure, but I would think there's a great possibility that. Now I won't care if they were Catholic Jews of goodwill or anything, but his father's almost like an atheist or something. So he's probably one of these, and he's rich, very very rich. They were rich boys. From North Philadelphia, the part of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania is very rich. Richie rich kind of a kid, acting that way too. But Peter, getting back to Peter, just to finish a little bit of that off, what disappointed me with Peter, he did the most, Bob. I was really surprised at him. And he's another person. He's not the same person I met or knew. But after he let me go, Bob was devastated. He felt bad, he did. He even said, Brother Richard, let's go for a walk. And we went for a walk on the property, and I can tell he was sad. And he says, well, what do you think is going to happen now? And he says, well, you're going to be very famous for a short while. You're going to be very popular, and then everything's going to go. You're going to lose everything. And that's what I told him. And I had a chance to tell him that, you know. And he was very concerned, I can tell. He cared. And I thought maybe after I left, this kid's going to follow. He's not going to stay. But instead, he stayed, because now he figures it's me and my brother. We can be these two kingpins on the mountain over here. Us alone, no one, and whatever he was thinking, but he didn't take my side, and he knew I was right. And when that happens, you do two things. If you continue to take your brother's side, you have to justify the fact, make up things to say, well, Ibranyi had to really be evil. And then you start making things up. You justify yourself, and then God curses you. And he fell under such a curse, he became worse to me, even than his brother, a worse enemy, because he's really the brains of the work. Brother Michael Dimond's an idiot. He's a parrot.
Yeah.
He really is. Peter Dimond is the brain. Peter Dimond is the brain. Brother Michael is a good parrot. He can parrot things out like a parrot. Even John Veneri said that about him, and John Veneri was right on that. Brother Michael Dimond is a parrot, and he is. He used to get up and give sermons verbatim. He can memorize too, Father Wathen's book and everything. He would use the words verbatim, and they never tell you he's reading from their books. And it sounds like he's saying it. But if ever you sat down and debated him or spoke to him, you'd see he's stupid. Yeah. His brother is the one that has the brains. He does. He's more dangerous. Peter's even more dangerous than now as a brother. And more full of pride, or if not equal. Because he became just like his brother. They both sound the same now.
Yeah, I hear it in his voice. He's got a very cold, cutting voice.
Well, they're vicious. They're vicious. And a bunch of spoiled rich kids, really. Sitting on the top of a mountain, acting like they're... really, it's the fame game. It always was. The other incident we'll get on record too was when Brother Michael was invited to go out to a charismatic conference. You know, he is that way, believe me. You know, a charismatic conference out in California, and it was all these charismatic-y freaks. And he comes up and he asks me, he says, Brother Richard, what do you think? Should I go? What do you mean, what do I think? I forget when this happened. I says, if you go out there, your name is dead amongst traditionalists. Ain't no one going to listen to you. You're a freak. You can't go out there. Why do you want to go out there? He says, well, I was just thinking maybe if I go out there, he says, if I go out there, I can maybe, at least after I'm done speaking about what they want me to speak about, I can sort of hand out cards or tell them about us. I says, it don't work that way. I says, the only way you can go out there is if you go out there, you can even tell a white lie if you want and say, I'll say this, but get up and tell the truth.
Yeah.
JP2 is an apostate anti-pope. He didn't believe that yet, but we believed he was a heretic. See, this is earlier on in. JP2 is a heretic. Vatican II is full of heresies. We believe in the salvation dogma. These charismatic apparitions are false. I said, if you do that, then you can go. You'll probably get stoned. Maybe it'll kill you even. There's no way you can go out there. And he says, well, in the beginning he told me, he says, but they don't want you to go out there. They don't want, because you're too rough or too. He says, but maybe I can go out there and like smooth them over a little bit, and what they want to hear, and then sort of just give them stuff afterwards. You see, that's his way of thinking.
Yeah.
I said, that's a sin of omission. You be a partner in their crime. You cannot do it. You have to get up and tell the full position, or don't go at all. Jews too. Too hard against the Jews and all that. So this happened several times. So he eventually didn't go, but he was always angry at me for it. Always angry because he wanted to go so bad. It was all these famous charismatics too. The other thing happened like that. The Jew thing, I got him to talk. I said that. I don't know if did I mention that? I don't know if I ever mentioned that. On the fear of the Jews, did I say I had Brother Michael finally spoke about the Jews? I think I spoke about that on here. But there was another incident like the one I just said there, where he was in. Even after I left the monastery, now I'm in New Jersey in the rooming house. This nun from Florida who was Father Fulham. She knew Father Fulham, or I don't know. Sister Michael, Ron knows her. And she knew all these traditionalists, and she was sedevacantist. And she called me first and said, I want you to come down, Brother Richard, and speak on the sedevacant position. I said, fine. But I knew she was with Kelly, Bishop Kelly, SSP5. And I said, fine, but I got to also talk about the dogma, salvation dogma. Oh, no, we differ on that. We disagree on it. No, that's heresy. Now, you're a heretic. I said, if you're holding Bishop Kelly, that's heresy. If I come down there, I can't just talk about what you. They always do that. Jerry does that. Don't talk about this because we don't believe in it. Just talk about Mary now, about the Immaculate Conception or something. Don't talk about sedevacantism or the dogma. So I said, if I go down there, I got to talk about the sedevacant position, and outside the church is now salvation. I got to talk about the dogma, or I commit a sin or omission, or I don't come down. So we talk about Kelly. I said Kelly's a heretic on his point, and he's a hypocrite on Father Feeney. He said Father Feeney was excommunicated for heresy, and that's a lie. He was excommunicated for disobedience. And so I showed it to her. I said, call Father Feeney, Bishop Kelly, and test him. She did, and he still stuck to his guns about heresy. And he says, why do you still stay with Kelly? He's lying. I went at it with her back and forth. And I said, if I go down there, I have to speak on the dogma. Along with the sedevacant. She got Brother Michael to go down there. I don't know if he ever actually ended up going, but I think he did. Got him on the phone. He agreed he would talk about sedevacant and leave that out. Or send her a tape on her, or he went down even there. I forget. But that's the way they do it. Can I go out to the charismatic concert and talk about a few charismatic-y things and leave all the rest out? They all want to be famous. They all want to go out and get in front of people. Let me talk. I'll get up there and I'll spit all over every one of you. You want to talk. They said we were arguing. I didn't think I'd be having enough strength to go this long.
I think something got you charged up a little bit.
Well, it's God's word. You saw everybody. Yeah, so do I. He's asking good questions, too. He's sort of like where you were, and that's what we need.
Yeah, right.
For people like you.
Mm-hmm. They're in their 30s, right? Mid to late 30s, the Dime brothers?
Yeah, they're probably in their 30s-something. Hey, if they convert, we'd have two good basketball players. I give you that much. He's a professional ping-pong player and tennis, though. Very good tennis player, yeah. He is.
But he sleeps the rest of the time.
Sleeps the rest of the day. I really, look, as much as I'm talking about them now, even if they convert, praise God. They'd have to do some extreme penance, keep their mouth shut for about 1 year, and be under me, submissive to me, and then I'd let them go out, and they'd be very good.
Yeah.
But they converted. But they'd need a major conversion. First of all, God have to give them a giant new heart, because they ain't got no heart at all right now. They need to get true charity. It could happen, though. I've seen good. Everyone has a good side. Much as I'm talking about the guy, I see good sides in him, too, and his brother. But I don't. Right now, it's overwhelmed by pride and nastiness. Very bad, though, what he's doing, so you can't make excuses for that. No way.
Sounds like he has no charity whatsoever.
None. Zero.
Didn't Christ say that we have to have some charity?
Certainly. I mean, you can talk to anybody that went in there with him, and they'll tell you, oh, this kid was unbelievable. Is unbelievable. Different, a lot of times people are different when you meet them in person. But, I mean, you look at his there's no real pastoral care there for the kid. He doesn't care what you believe in. He doesn't care what you're doing. He'll maybe get angry if you resist one of his points out of pride and get a little bit, would be seen as some type of zeal, but he has no real care for an individual person's soul, not even his own. Not even his own. Oh, the other thing too, at the St. Jehoshaphat Church in Rochester, that was another experience. Oh boy, what a mess that was. We went there, and eventually his thing was too, it was to go there as late as possible, it's typical, and then almost for communion and leave. It was weird. And then he would go to confession after Mass.
Yeah, right.
I never heard of anybody that did that. And he would receive communion.
Yeah.
And he would receive communion.
I know.
With the priest, so-called, after Mass he would go to confession. He received too. That's the opposite way. It's weird. And if it's a venial sin, that's pride. Don't bother the priest. You know what I mean? If it's a mortal sin, I think he did it the wrong way around.
Yeah.
And anyway, the kid is a weirdo. He's a freak.
Yeah, he is.
Anyway, the 1 week I got a chance, the Orthodox, whatever, they're Uniate, so-called Catholic under the Pope, but they were heretics, wanted to talk to me. Again, he came up to me, I went to talk to him, I got to talk to him just for about 3 minutes. Brother Richard, that was it for him. And then, couldn't talk to him. But that whole situation there was it was a beautiful Mass, but they were heretics. Everyone. What does he do when he goes in there? He goes in and he leaves. That's when I wrote things. I said, look, there's real live people in there. You can just open your mouth and talk to them what they believe in. The minute you find out they're all believing in heresy, then that's what Peter Dimond was trying to say. It's the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
first of all, he's telling people don't give it donations.
Yeah, right.
He's running in and running out.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a Catholic Church and you say don't give donations, that's heresy. Or don't give tithes. What's wrong with you? That's heresy. If the priest is a heretic, the people are heretics, but the church is a Catholic church. I wrote sufficiently well enough on that. Peter Dimond's a big idiot too, full of pride. How many times did I tell him the answers about the obligation to profess faith and sins of omission? He kept denying that. He wouldn't even address it. But the way I looked at this, there was always putting obstacles of people who always wanted to interrupt my mission. It's always somebody's trying to put their 2 cents in and shut me up, push me off to the side. Discredit me, character assassinate, step in and take the place maybe of the big shot. I don't know what it is. And all I'm trying to do is go out there and tell the truth. But the Dimer brothers are uniquely, out of a lot of the people I've seen, they got an immense amount of uncharity and pride. Very, very bad. Other ones have other problems too. They're very sick individuals. If you ever met them.
A particular interest in countering anything that you do.
Oh yes, it's the devil. You know what's amazing? They probably became one of my worst enemies. Probably of people that were coming close to the truth. But I say enemy. Maybe we're doing this tape to help some other people. So I never read that. I don't know about that other guy. What's his name? Landry guy.
Oh yeah.
I never read that article he wrote about me. Maybe one day I'll do something about.
I was thinking of him.
I don't feel like if I try to respond to everybody, I'll be here till kingdom come. Certain things you do need to respond to. Maybe I maybe need to respond to this thing, but I never read it yet. But I don't respond to the other stuff he put on there because goodwill people are going to want somebody convicted. So he's a wimp, as I say. He truly is. Doesn't believe in any real punishments or people being justly killed or infants and all that. The guy's a wimp. The Dimonds are a wimp. Everything they believe in is a wimp. How's God ever going to save the church with people like that? And they deny all kinds of dogmas because of it. But the Brother Michael thing, as I said to people right from the beginning, it wasn't money. He's not greedy for money. It's fame. He's got it bad. That's why he's addicted to Padre Pio. It's weird. He's got such a devotion to him. It's a strange thing, man. It's almost he wishes he had this stigmata, and he wants to be a Padre Pio. And he's really he was in the beginning. He was with Bayside, the Bayside people in New York. Yeah, he was with the Bayside people in New York. Oh, Rochester used to go to the Rochester, New York priest too, and I did too. I committed these sins of omissions, knowing I was thinking. This is from my perspective, so people don't do what I did. In other words, I don't know where else I can go. This is the closest to the truth. All I know is he's wacky. He doesn't bother me. I followed the whole rule of St. Benedict. I did. I read all the books. I got to read, I got to write, I did. That whole book of evidence, I left it there for Bob Dimond, even though I knew I was angry at them. I left everything I wrote up there. And so he copied a lot of stuff. I don't care if people copy my stuff, if they do it right, or even if they get a few good things. But So I thought, this is giving me a chance. But God was almost like saying to me, better to go out and dig ditches than to have this false peace in this monastery where you think you are now.
Yeah.
That's what God showed me. And He did. I had to go out and work as an optician a year after that. That was my punishment. God consistently would punish me every time I did something like that. And He would say, that's for you're staying up here. And because then I thought because I wanted to be like a monk even, like a hermit, not even talking to people. You get so used to that life. But it's God, when God says, at what price? At what price? At what price? Better to go out and shovel horse crap than to every day, 8 hours a day, and go home, than to stay in a monastery like that. But that's my thinking. I got nowhere else to go. I can pray. I got the books. I'm writing. God must be pleased with this. Oh no, that is not the right way. If I obeyed God completely and got out of here really quick, things would have happened quicker and easier for me. It would have. I'm just warning people, don't fool yourself and thinking, well, at least I got the books. Where else would I have gotten them? Believe me, you would have gotten a lot better in a lot different way. You don't need to commit sin. It's an obstacle. Thank God I got out of it. But those are the excuses you make for yourself. That's what I was doing. I said I got nowhere else to go. I love the religious life. I can pray up here. I can study. And I didn't like the world. And then when I left the monastery and I was left, I felt like a fish out of water. I really did. On the way back, I felt like, oh man, I felt like a fish out of water. Yeah. So I can explain. I got to go back in this world again. But then after I started doing it, even then, like I am now, I said, thank God. Because now I'm free at least. Because you're a prisoner when you're under that mentality. Because you got to commit sins of omission. You're going to keep your mouth shut. Look what stuff I'm telling you that I allowed to happen. I rebuked the kid. A lot of stuff was going in the background. Sometimes he'd listen. Sometimes he won't. Sometimes he would get worse. But the whole thing was really about making his thing is fame, and that's all it's about. I don't know. I should tell the thing about the playing the cards, the canasta. I believe that's what this kid's possessed. There's other reasons I got. That's just one of them, though. But in the morning, he would. I like recreating at night. That's when I recreate. I play war games in the night. But he'd have us right after Mass in the morning, after breakfast, go out and playing canasta. And me, Mickey Galliano, and him. And Father Watson was there one weekend and saw Father Watson trying to be polite. He said, well, there's nothing wrong with recreation. He should have really said, yeah, but 10 o'clock in the morning you're playing canasta? And I had to play canasta with them a couple of mornings. He was doing this for a while. I went, okay, I'll substitute this for my recreation, and at night I won't recreate. So I tried to shift the hours, but it's a weird hour for me. That's the hour I do all my studying and spiritual work. And it was cutting into my stuff, but I obeyed. We're playing canasta. I would have played canasta at nighttime with him. But here he's doing it in the daytime, but that's not the point I'm going to make here. We're playing the game, and he was so serious about the game, it was like life and death. He tore the cards down like that. He'd take the cards like that. And then every time he would go into the bathroom, he would go in there for a while and then come back, and he would win uncanny. You would never see such cards. Mickey Galliano will look at us, and after about a third or fourth day, he went, do you notice every time he goes into the bathroom and comes back, he starts pulling cards like you've never seen? Not even a casino. But it's not the only time he did that. He did a lot of stuff like that. This kid, I really believe, is in direct communication with the devil. And the devil is giving him power. Not just because of the card game. Other things I told you I had to do to get him up out of bed. And his eyes are always dilated. But this, I mention it because I played a lot of cards. I know when you have probabilities. This was straight out of hell. Every time he goes into the bathroom and comes back, he starts banging these cards out. This is beyond.
Are you tired?
It's impossible.
So what would he do in the bathroom? Like communicate?
Yeah, devil, maybe make some type of a pact, bring up his power, help me, do whatever his incantation is. That's all. I'm just telling you that as something. Vicky was there. We saw it. I played enough sport cards and stuff to know this is not of the human plane. Either God's doing it or the devil. That's all I'm telling. But that's not the only thing. He'd be so laid up in bed with demons that I'd have to say exorcism prayers to get him out to just say the night compline. Maybe for 15 minutes before he'd be paralyzed. He tells even. He says he'd be paralyzed. But now sometimes even I know saints could be attacked. It wasn't the case with this kid. And his eyes were always dilated, wide open. I don't know if that was a medical condition or what. But the kid, there's other things if I have time to think about, I can bring it back up. But I guarantee this kid was making pacts with the devil. He's definitely making pacts. And if you met him, it's not hard to believe after what I'm telling you here.
Yeah, right.
He's as cold as a shark.
Yeah.
But there's another side to him that is good. I saw it. Every time every now and then a good side with him will come out. And everyone has a good side in their life. So I don't want to say he's so possessed that he can never be good. The good side of him is good. You know? Everyone has that. I'm telling you. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
The guy had to come from all
Oh
over
yeah,
the world.
except for Antichrist. Well, there's other things. But anybody who knows that's not normal. And it was 3-4 days in a row. Mickey and I kept saying, "What is he doing when he goes in here? This is diabolical." Or we said, "This is some weird." And then he would come out, and when you play cards, he'd throw the card, and he'd look at you, and he throws the card down, and he would take the card. He would go like this. He would go like that. I mean, we're like, "Whoa, this is a card game, man. Take it easy."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, like vicious, you know, kind of strange kid.
Was he in the bathroom for a long time, or?
Not too long. Not too long.
Oh.
But long enough to do whatever he did to come back, and then he gets this whatever he's doing here with the cards. Oh yeah, and he'd even tell you. He'd tell you. He'd be paralyzed in bed and ask me to pray for him to try to get him out of bed. But he thought it was Padre Pio. He's being persecuted. You know, the Job.
Yeah, right.
Now sometimes it is the Job thing, but with him, believe me, it wasn't.
Yeah, right.
It was straight out of hell.
Yeah.
What a battle, you know. You don't know they're all evil, you know. Then the Father Ashley group and the Howard Walsh group and all that.
You must have done basically every traditional priest in the country.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. That's what he said. It's strange the way God put me in these positions. I know in the beginning, too, that these priests knew something was happening with me, but one guy even told me, "Yeah, we know that there's signs there, but we don't know if it's from the devil or from God." And I said, "Well, I agree. I wouldn't trust anything, but you've seen something. Something's up. Something's happening." Because they were paying attention. God was giving some type of signs. You know, even my mother said at one time that you're going to have some type of mission or something you're going to be called to do. And I think even some of these younger priests must have known it. I don't know everything that's going on in the background, but I know when God first called me and all hell broke loose. That's another story. We'll be here for 10 years on that one. That does require another telling. You know what I mean? That one.
Yeah. When
I was attacked by every devil in hell, you know, and the guardian angel saying, you know, and now it all begins. People are coming and asking me all questions. I had Jews asking me about the Messiah from Brooklyn and stuff. I don't even know, what are you asking me for? I had one Jewish woman come in and ask me, is the Messiah going to be a chauvinist? Or like a macho is a feminist, you know? And I said, what is she asking me about the Messiah for? Jews coming in and asking me questions from Brooklyn. I mean, what did they know? And I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that was going on I didn't even know. I don't even know. And I don't care. If God wants me to let it know, He will. That's when I was back in New Jersey before everything, when it all began. That's when God first called me. This recording was produced by Mary's Little Remnant, 302 East Joffrey Street, Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, 87901-2878, and can be accessed on my St. John the Baptist website at www.johnthebaptist.us.